head Woo has just received information about the deaths of 6 people in the recent C-rank dungeon raid. It makes sense that D-rank hunter Jin-Ho survived and defeated the boss with his high-end equipment. However, the other survivor, Sung Jin-Woo, who previously escaped from the dual dungeon incident, seems quite unusual. Not to mention, one of the 6 deceased was Hwang Dong-suk, the brother of Hwang Dong-soo, which is truly concerning. When Jin-Woo got home, he bought fried chicken for Jin-Ah, who was thrilled. Now, he has enough money to cover his mother's hospital bills and their living expenses. Speaking about the battle the previous day, his sister guessed that his teammates must have been very strong for him to come back without a scratch. This made Jin-Woo fall into deep thought. That day, he had killed without hesitation, something he would have run from in the past. Could leveling up have made him bolder? Regardless, his top priority now was to become stronger for his family. Suddenly, the system notified him that harmful substances were affecting his health and lifespan, and his body automatically received a detoxification buff. In his room, he tried to drink a few more cans of beer but couldn't get drunk. It turned out this was the effect of the hidden quest reward, Courage of the Weak. He received a blessing that granted immunity to poison and negative statuses, as well as enhanced health and longevity. This reward came from the dual dungeon. Perhaps the regeneration of his lost body parts was also due to this blessing. That afternoon, while Jin-Woo was sleeping, Jin-Ah came into his room to tell him that someone named Jin-Ho was calling. She scolded him to drink less beer, warning that if he didn't, she wouldn't treat him even if she became a doctor in the future. Jin-Ho called Jin-Woo his big brother out to meet and thank him for saving his life last time. He kept his promise to keep that day's events a secret. The reason Jin-Ho sought out Jin-Woo was that he wanted to form a guild. However, Jin-Woo quickly refused, thinking that Jin-Ho was treating it as a mere game. It was only when Jin-Ho bowed sincerely that Jin-Woo agreed to listen. Jin-Ho wanted to obtain a guild master's certificate, but one of the mandatory conditions for becoming a guild master is that the person must be a hunter with experience participating in at least 20 dungeon raids. Jin-Ho had always studied diligently to take over his father's company, so he wasn't worried about the theoretical exam. However, the practical part was too difficult for him. He wanted to become a guild master because of his father's construction company. His father was planning to establish a guild and wanted to appoint an S-rank hunter as the guild master, with Jin-Ho's older brother as the deputy guild master, running the guild like a business. Since the country only had 7 S-rank hunters and the only one not yet affiliated with any guild, Min Byung-gyu, had retired, Jin-Ho's father intended to poach an S-rank hunter from another guild. However, doing so would only create enemies. Therefore, while his older brother had not yet awakened as a hunter, Jin-Ho wanted to gain experience to secure the deputy guild master position for himself. He asked Jin-Woo, an E-rank hunter, to join him in successfully raiding dungeons. This would surely convince his father of his abilities, as his father would see that Jin-Ho could handle such tasks. Jin-Ho wanted to team up with Jin-Woo because he believed Jin-Woo's true strength was at least B rank or even higher. Jin-Ho showed Jin-Woo the building intended to be the guild's office, valued at around 30 billion won. He promised Jin-Woo that if he helped him complete 19 more C-rank dungeon raids, the building would be Jin-Woo's reward. Helping with 19 C-rank raids to earn 30 billion won was indeed a lucrative deal. However, Jin-Woo was a special case. He could still level up and would soon reach S-rank or higher, making this amount of money insignificant in the future. Since he was still uncertain about the leveling system, collaborating with others was risky for Jin-Woo, so he refused and walked away. At this point, Jin-Ho resorted to his last card. He swore that if Jin-Woo agreed to cooperate, he would keep the secret of Jin-Woo's killing forever. Jin-Woo paused for a few seconds, looked at him silently, and then walked away, leaving the young master terrified. At a certain company, a hunter named Hwang Dong-soo was ordering his secretary to bring him the documents about the 2 survivors from his brother's recent C-rank dungeon raid. As soon as he saw the 2 names, he was filled with hatred and was convinced that his brother had been murdered. He asked his secretary what would happen if he killed someone in a distant place. The secretary explained that if he murdered in a country with laws against hunters, he would be subject to local laws. However, if it was in a country without such laws, he would be judged according to the laws of his home country. Depending on the negotiations with the local government, the sentence might be reduced. Hearing this, Hwang Dong-soo felt somewhat reassured and asked his secretary to adjust the guild schedule, eagerly anticipating the day he could personally kill the 2 survivors. Today, the main character and his sister were exercising together. Jin-Woo asked Jin-Ah what she would do if she had 30 billion won. Jin-Ah thought the question was unrealistic, but if she had 30 billion, she would pay for her tuition and their mother's hospital bills, and save the rest. When Jin-Woo completed his daily tasks, he noticed something strange. His running stats had exceeded the maximum, showing 11 out of 10 kilometers. Curious, he tried doing 2 more push-ups and found the counter also exceeded the maximum. Realizing this, he decided to push himself beyond the usual targets. Once all the stats had doubled, his daily quests transformed into a hidden quest. The reward was various random selection boxes. Jin-Woo opened the random blessing box and received a key to the castle of Demon's Gate, with an S-rank rarity. What intrigued him the most was that the castle contained ingredients for the holy water of life, a potion that could cure all diseases using magic. Seeing this as an opportunity to cure his mother's eternal sleep disease, he immediately headed to the location where he could use the key. Upon using the key, a fierce flame erupted. An S-rank key would open an S-rank dungeon, with challenges equivalent to Jeju Island from Episode 1, a place where numerous S-rank hunters had tasted defeat. Despite the danger, Jin-Woo bravely turned the key and entered the Castle of Demons dungeon. Inside, he found a scene of a ruined city engulfed in flames. Fear gripped him, but he held on to the teleportation stone from the previous dungeon, ensuring a safe exit if necessary. The first monster he encountered was the Hellhound Cerberus, with red text indicating its threat. Jin-Woo activated his Wolf Slayer title and the sprint skill, quickly attacking it with deep slashes, but they had no effect. He then used his intimidation skill to panic the dog, but it only took one roar from the beast to nullify Jin-Woo's skill. Dodging its attacks, he managed to stab the dog's face, causing paralysis and bleeding, but it quickly recovered. The gigantic beast then bit off his arm, making Jin-Woo scream in agony. It threw him to the ground and stomped on him, causing severe injuries and blood loss. Not stopping there, it activated its rage skill, doubling its power for 3 minutes. A light touch from it left Jin-Woo with only half his health. He hastily used the recovery item from his daily quest rewards. Jin-Woo then rushed to stab the dog in the eye, but it shook him off and charged, sending him flying and crashing around the city. Once again, his health plummeted uncontrollably. Since Jin-Woo's health had dropped to a critical 30%, his will skill automatically activated, reducing all incoming damage by 50%. The Hellhound continued its charge, forcing Jin-Woo to kick up a cloud of dust to create a smokescreen and hide. System warnings about the danger level kept appearing, clearly indicating the system's desire to prevent the player's death. It seemed that if Jin-Woo died, the system would face some sort of issue. His only option now was to use the teleportation stone to escape and save his life. Unfortunately, he lost his balance and dropped the stone after a stomp from the Hellhound. Was he going to bleed out and die like this? At that moment, Jin-Woo realized he could purchase items from the shop. He hurriedly bought 3 recovery potions, but each one only restored 100 HP. He also remembered the A-rank item, Kasaka's Venom Gland. This potion reduced physical damage taken by 20%, but it also reduced physical damage dealt by 35%. However, thanks to his blessing of immunity to all toxins, he didn't suffer the downside of the potion. After a bout of running and hiding, Jin-Woo's hiding spot was finally discovered by the Hellhound. It bit him squarely in the chest. 3 minutes had passed, and at last, Cerberus's berserk skill wore off. At this point, the stab wound Jin-Woo had inflicted on its eye earlier began to take effect. Seizing the opportunity, he dashed forward, dodging the remaining 2 heads, and leaped up to deliver a powerful stab to its face. He then continued to dart around, slashing multiple wounds across its body. Eventually, one of the heads caught him. Jin-Woo strained his muscles, trying to break free, but to no avail. Half of his body was now clenched in the beast's jaws, and his health dropped to a critical low. Blood flowed from his wounds, staining the Hellhound's teeth red, but Jin-Woo refused to give up. He mustered his strength and stabbed the second head's eye, causing both heads to writhe in agony. He relentlessly withdrew and plunged his sword repeatedly into the wounds. Finally, the hellhound could no longer endure the excruciating pain from the sword's effect. Blood gushed out like rain, extinguishing a large area of flames. The beast was defeated, causing Jin-Woo to level up continuously, and all his wounds were healed. The reward for defeating the hellhound was a key to open the gate of the demon's castle, along with a few other items.